So, our next session is Android Deeplink Exploitation. So, I would like to invite the speaker, Akash and V. Sorry for my pronunciation.
It's fine.
Yes. Firstly, I really thanks and appreciate all of you for your contribution at our event, and I'm really sorry for low audience because or yeah, most of the people have some kind of electrical issue or something. Yeah, that's fine. So if you guys are ready for the presentation, yeah, you can start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Akash, can you please share your screen?
Just a minute, I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Can see.
So, hello everyone, and first of all, thank you for inviting us on this platform. So, my name is Akash Katare, and I'm working on Synopsys. I'm working as a security service senior associate consultant. I'm having around 4+ years of experience, and I am mostly interested in web API, mobile apps, and tech clients and source code reviews.
Okay. Hi, hello everyone. My name is Vaishali, and I'm working as a security researcher at UpNots. And I have almost experience of 3 years, and I've secured over 200 plus applications in web application, mobile application, APIs, and many more. Can we move to next slide? Yeah. So today's topic is Android deep link exploitation. Next. Yeah, so the agenda of today's talk is we will talk about basic terminology like what is activity, intent, web view, deep link in Android, how we can read the Android manifest file, how we can identify that activity is exported. Then we look for different ways to exploit deep link, like how we can load arbitrary URL, how we can perform LFI and perform accesses attack, account takeover, and many more things. So over to you, Akash.
So, thank you, Vaishali. So in basic terminologies, like most of the people, like we use Android devices, right? So whatever the applications are running on the devices, every applications, a single screen is nothing but an activity. So what is an activity? So an Android application is a component that provides a screen with which users can interact in order to do something. So let's say if we are launching Facebook, the first activity will come for splash screen, then it will come for a login page. Once we enter credential, it will redirect to the home page, like our logged in page. So these activities are nothing but the activities, each and every screen. So what is an intent? So an intent is messaging object that you can use to request an action from another app component. In simple words, it's like a way of telling an activity to perform something. Let's say, for example, if there is an application like Flipkart, if there is any button to, let's say, purchase something. So if you are clicking on that purchase button, and it will redirect it to payment page, right? So it's nothing but whenever we are clicking on any button, so with the help of intent, we are telling that another activity to do this task. So there is a concept which is being used as, that is called as intent. So another is web view. So in like some of the applications, like applications will have the pages like about us or contact us. So if you click on that, so they will call their web view pages inside that, right? So how it is happening? That is happening with the help of web view. The web view is a class, and class is an extension of Android's view class that allows us to display web pages as a part of your activity layout. So whatever the activities are there of applications, that can be loaded with the web views, and those web views can be any remote URL or whatever the display, whatever the web page we want to show, that can be loaded there. So these are some basic terminologies before we going to start understanding about deeply. So I guess that. So what is an exported activity? So an exported activity is one that can be accessed by an external components or apps. And how we can identify the exported activities in any Android applications? Like once we are taking the Android APK of that application and we are importing it into the JADX. So in JADX, there will be two, if you navigate to Android manifest.xml file, there will be two options. The first one will be like Android :exported equals to true. That means the app, that means the activity is set to exported. Okay. And any activity which is defined within intent, like any activity which is having intent filter defined within it, so that application, that activity is also going to be an exported activity. We'll see one example. For example, you can see here this is application insecure shop.apk. So I have imported that application into a JADX. So as JADX, everyone knows that we use JADX to convert our text to Java source code. So the entire application source code we can see here if it is not obfuscated. So you can see on the line number 55, the activity name that com.insecureshop.aboutus activity is set to exported equals to true. This is the one way. And the another one is like you can see on the line number 67 to 60, this 67, that this is the activity name, and within that activity intent filters are defined. Okay. So here nothing is defined like Android :equals to exported equals to true. So by default, if any activity is having intent filter defined within it, it is true. But in case if any application defines intent filter and also defines here Android :exported equals to false, in that case it is going to be a false. So this is the first step that we require to exploit these things. First of all, we'll understand this. So we'll come to the part that is what is deep link. So nowadays, whenever we scroll any Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we will get a link, right? So someone will post a link of, let's say, Twitter comments or Twitter link is there. So if you are clicking on that Twitter link, what is happening? That from Facebook, we are directly getting transferred to a Twitter application. So how it is happening? That is happening with the help of concept like called as deep link. So what are deep links? So deep links are URIs or custom URIs which send users directly into a specific point into the application rather than opening an external website. So as you can see here, so I have created one HTML page, and inside that I have integrated this link, that is FB:profile, and this is my profile ID. So as soon as you are clicking on this click here button, you can see on the right hand side. So it is getting navigated to directly Facebook, and it is showing me directly that page. Okay. And it is calling a Facebook application, right? So this is how the deep link works actually. We'll see like how this is we are calling and how this FB: is coming and all. But for understanding, we are just doing this one. So what is actually happening here? So whenever a user clicked a link or programmatic request, it is invoking a web URI intent. Okay. So it will check for the three conditions. So the first thing is like whenever I clicked on this click here link, as we saw in the previous slide, first of all, it checked that whether Facebook is installed or not. If Facebook is installed, obviously, then only it is going to be called, because Facebook has defined their own schema, that is FB:/ within their manifest file. So that's why we are able to call it. So that's the first condition, like open the user's preferred app that can handle the URI if one is designated. What will happen? The second one, like sometimes whenever you are clicking on the URI, okay, so sometimes there will be like multiple applications will be there which can handle that link. So let's say if we are making any calling any another external website on a integrated browser of any application, so there can be 3 more applications like Chrome, Firefox, or and that the third one will be that particular application where it is going to be called. So in that case, a pop-up will be like a dialog box will become there, and it will like we can decide whether we have to call it by using which applications we have to load it or not. Okay. So what is Android schema? So the schema part of URI, this is the minimal essential attribute for specifying a URI. We'll see in the next slide what is schema and all. What are the required elements and attributes values to perform like to integrate these things? So once the deep link is triggered and Android activity is used to be invoked, usually these activities, as browsable activities as they are configured to acknowledge the browsable category intents in such scenarios that browsable activities are having an intent filter defined within 3 elements as actions, category, and data in the manifest file. So what is happening under the action tab? So it will specify action underscore view that the intent filter can be reached from Google search. So whenever we are searching anything, or whenever we are passing any URI with the help of Deeplink, so what's happening? So it will search, it will be going to be searched from Google search, and then it is going to be loaded there. So what is the category? So category is required in order to for the filter intent filter to be accessible from a web browser. And what is the Android intent.category.browsable? This allows your app to respond to implicit intents. So whatever the intents we are going to pass, that can be browsable. And the third one is nothing but the data. So what is data? You can see here, this is Android scheme as we were talking. So Android scheme is nothing but insecure shop. So this is a custom schema that this application has defined. That means with the help of this insecure shop : we can call this application. And what is the host name they have defined? That is com.insecure shop. So it represents a URI format that resolves to the activities. So that's the thing I explained. So line number from 69 to 74, you can see that any activity, this is the activity which is defined in intent filter, and it is having these 3 categories: actions, category, and data. So whenever we are going to exploit any deep link, we require this browsable and this schema as line number 72 and 74. Okay. You can refer to this link for more reference about that. So this is what the actual deep link components, so like how a deep link can be created. So this Akash name, that is a custom schema. Like right now in the previous slide, we saw insecure shop : that another will be a host name that was in previous slide .com.insecure shop. Then again : if the application has defined any port number, that will be here. If it is not, that's okay. And after slash, there will be some path if any application has defined, and the query and fragments are like optional. So it depends on application how they have configured the deep link. So before going to start with the practical sessions, these are the prerequisites that we required. The first one is insecure shop. That is, this is going to be a vulnerable application that we are going to use for the demonstration purpose. This insecure shop and this worldroid. We required ADB to execute some commands. We required JADX to load the JavaScript, entire Java code, and any device like which is having a rooted or non-rooted device. So what are these attacks are there? So we are going to perform on a non-rooted device. Okay. So the first thing, how to read the manifest file, identify exploited activities, and trace the source code and create a deep link. So we'll move to the practical session. So I have loaded this insecure shop.apk file here in the JADX. You can see here. So what is the first thing, how we can identify the application is, the activity is exported or not exported? We'll search for exported in the manifest file. So we can see that there is a activity which is having exported set equals to true, correct? So if I click on this, if you from keyboard, if you press Control and click on it, it will navigate us to that particular class, this activity. Sorry. So you can see this is the activity. And in this activity, there is nothing called get intent, or we can see that there is no input getting this activity haven't defined any function to get info from the external side, right? How we can find that? You can search for get intent. So you can see there is nothing defined. You can search for some URL parameters if it is there, or URI parameters if it is there, but nothing is there. If you go line by line code also, that's also fine. So you can see this is custom receiver, this void and all, but we are not able to see any kind of code that is going to be can we control from external side, right? So that's why this is not useful for us, but we can still call it and we can check whether any sensitive data is exported or not. That's another part. Okay. So if we come to this another activity, that line number 67, that is having com.insecure.webview activity. If you go into that, we can see that, and we will first of all search. We will search here for get intent. Okay. Whenever we are doing any real-time assessments, also we will search for these functions. So whenever we search for this get intent, we can see that we got one get intent function here, right? So get intent, okay, you can see that on line number 31, we can see the get intent. If you're not able to see, I will just move it to zoom. So now you can see this, whatever the value is getting passed from externally, that is going to be again passed to this intent. And again, this intent is, sorry. So again, this intent is passing that to get data. So what this get intent is used for? This get intent is used to pass data from an activity to another, and this get data is used to retrieve the data on which this is operating on it, right? So whatever the value was passed to this intent variable, it is again we are taking it, this variable's value we are taking you by using this get data function, and once we got that, we are passing it to assigning it to URI parameter. Okay, so what else we have to observe here? The if else blocks. So whenever we are finding for any WebView related vulnerability or deep link related vulnerability, always look for if else conditions. Like there is a part where developer can do the mistake and we can use that to exploit our vulnerability. So you can see here, it is checking a condition on line number 32, that is if URI not equals to null. So it means that if URI is having something, we can move to this block. Okay, then again one more if condition is there, strings kt dot equals to data. So as this is a Kotlin application, so it is having some Kotlin based variables and all defined. So you can see again in the bracket it is defined at URI dot get path. Okay, this get path is going to be used for whatever URI we are passing in this variable, and after that it is appending with this get path. So what is the path they have defined? That is a /web, correct? So until what we have understood, schema, whatever we got from this manifest file, what was the schema? This is insecure shop schema. Okay, sorry, this is a schema. The another one is this host name, which is this one, right? So how we can call a schema? By colon / and this insecure shop, right? The another one will be, what is the path they have defined now? /web. So we'll put here /web. So now we are creating step by step our deep link also, and we will check whether it's vulnerable or not. Okay. So if you move to the first block, you can see that it's having a web, and if the URL which is passed that is having /web, it is moving to line number 35, the another else block. Okay, because this if condition is having something different path if the path contains /web view. So first of all, we will look to this line number 35, this block. You can see that whatever the intent value is getting fetched, that is again going to be assigned to intent 4 variable. This expression will check for the intrinsic values and this whether it's null or not. Once they done that, you can see again this intent 4 value is getting called using the get data. Okay, so once we are getting the data, like retrieving the value of this intent 4, we are again passing it to data for variable. And once we pass to data for variable, again this is going to be checked whether this is having a null value or not. So if it is not, if it is having something, if it is containing something, obviously that is going to be assigned to a URL parameter. Okay, get query parameter. And if you see here, data equals to string. So what are the string value was there? So whatever we got in string, that is going to pass to data. Again, data equals to nulls. Then it is going to be finished. And in the line number 45, you can see webview.load URL. And now they are loading whatever the URL was passed inside this data, right? So we saw that it is going passed from variable to variable and variable to variable. And again, we got to here. So what we can understand, so like the another parameter will be a URL parameter, correct? So on which we are going to query it. So what will be our parameter, like question or URL? Okay. So here we can pass any, we can to check whether this application is vulnerable to deep link and all, and whether we can perform different types of attacks. We can check here that whether this application is accepting only the allowed domain of this particular respect to this particular application. Let's say this is a PhonePe application. So we will check that whether it's only allowing PhonePe links, or it is allowing some another applications links as well, like google.com or bing.com. So an attacker can load that particular URL into that respective application. So let's say what will be here, like we can include any URL here, let's say google.com or attacker control or whatever it is. right? So this is what the complete deep link what we discuss in the slide. As you can see, the deep link components that we defined here, like it was like this. This one, like the schema, then host name, port number was not defined here, so it's not there, but path is there and the parameters are there. So this query parameters we are having. So this way we can create a deep link. Okay. So what's the next part we'll see. So as you can see, I already shown in the demo that schema and hostname we figured out from this first active XML file. You can see in this screenshot that the get intent function is used to retrieve the intent objects and pass that object to get data. So this is how they are passing whatever the retrieve value is from one activity to another activity by using intent. And we can see on the second condition, web and web view are defined. So we just saw one block. We'll see the later one, another block as well. So you can see here, the whatever the expecting a query parameter was URL in the provided URL that we have already explained. And this is how we created our deep link. So now let's exploit the deep link and how much like different attacks we can exploit with that one. You can see here. So we are going to look into these kinds of findings. So one by one we'll start. The first one will be this. We will try to. Sorry. So first of all, we will try to load an arbitrary URL. That will be an attacker control URL. So that we just discussed. So for that, I required ADB like ADB tools that you can get it from the URL that we have mentioned. And I'm just unlocking my device. So you can see here this. This device is not rooted one. Okay, this is and it is working on Android version 12. So you can see one more thing. Okay, we'll see this later. First of all, I will show you the working of the application. So this is the Insecure Shop application. Once we installed it, it will look like this. We'll first of all try to log in into the application. Once we log in into the application, you can see there are some this buttons and all. If you click on more info of this any product, you can see a web view is getting called and this page is getting loaded inside this, right? So this is how a web view works. So if you check, this is getting loaded into this application, right? So what will be our target? Like our target will be instead of this by default, whatever Insecure Shop domain is getting triggered here, can we call a attacker control domain here? So yes, we can call with the help of deep links and we can check it. So I'm just closing this application and entire applications from my screen. So in my task manager, you can see nothing is there. So I'm just pasting this the copy command so to save the time that you can see here. If you're not able to see, I'm just zooming it. This is ADB shell AM start -w -a. ADB shell obviously to get to the shell of the application. AM like activity manager, we are starting an activity as you can see here. Start is used for start an activity specified by an intent. -w is defined for wait for to launch complete, and -a is for intent action, and -d is used for the passing the intent URL. Okay, so this whatever the intent URL like this deep link we were created, we are passing it here, and instead of the insecureshow.com, we are passing as facebook.com. Okay, so let's see whether it works or not. I'm just clicking and hitting into enter. You can see this insecureshow.com application got automatically called, and you can see inside this web view, our domain is getting called, right? So instead of Facebook, we can call anything like evil.com or whatever we are going to define. So what an attacker can perform, so attacker can perform phishing also, or he can manipulate the user also to some another web applications as well, because these are externally like we can call this activity from externally as well, and this particular URL is not properly handling the respective URLs of this particular application. Okay, so let's say if there is any banking applications like anything like Axis or SDFC, so what they should do? So they should restrict the URLs to their domains only. They should not allow any third-party domains to be loaded into this particular applications, right? So that's going to be a mitigation for this one as well. This was the first task that we can do here, that we can load an arbitrary URL. Okay. So what was the thing here? We were easily able to load the URL. Why? Because there was no validation was performed, right? So if you go to, we'll move to the next one. That is this was having a nothing validation implemented, right? So this from line number 33, you can see that this application is accepting something get path. After that, once you got the path, after that they are expecting this /webview path, right? As we passed here, this /webview, now they are accepting this as a web view, right? So we'll check this one also, but before that we'll understand the code here. So you can check here, we can see here that whatever the get intent is used, whatever we are calling in get intent, again they are checking the expression value is null or not. Again they are passing that value to data2 variable. Once it is null, to throw the null, they will close the condition here. If they will, once it is not null, it will move to the next block, and it requires a query parameter, that is a URL parameter. That also we have already created here, right? So if it is null, then again it is going to be null value. So what they are now checking again for the expression value null. And now, but now here the magic is like they are checking something query parameter, okay? And again they are checking that this parameter is having is equals to strings kt dot ends with the default. So whatever the URL is going to be passed in this URL parameter, that should ends with insecure shop app.com. Okay, that should be ends with the default. So that should be there. So what condition they have defined? So whatever we are passing, it should be like it should end with these kinds of things like this, right? So it's a kind of misconfigured again. So this is a weak. We can say that this is a weak host validation they have implemented. So obviously we can think that they want end with this, but not anything with this, right? So we can pass anything like Akash insecureShop.com. I can buy this domain and I can do this, right? We can do that thing also. So we'll check. First of all, we'll check that whether it allows any third-party domain or not. So let's say Akash.com. I'm just checking. Instead of this one, we'll check for Akash.com. Or whatever we will. And I will just change this to web view. And if we try here, now you can see the application is crashing, right? So it is not allowing us. It's just opening and closing the applications. It is nothing happening, right? We're not able to do that. So that's the thing. They have validation here. So what we can do here. If I'm giving Akash, and again, if I'm putting this insecureShop.com, and if I'm removing everything from the browser, and double quote is passed here. So if you can see now the URL got again triggered into this web view, right? So you can see akashinsecureShop.com is loaded here. Right now, this domain name is not registered. That's why we are able to see it. But when we want to exploit it, we can register it and we can exploit like this way also. So this is a weak host validation they have implemented. So in live applications also, we have to check for these kinds of validations also. There is a very good bypasses mentioned by Baggy Pro on HackerOne. If all of you are following HackerOnes and all, so you can see that there are like multiple bypasses also. If this kinds of bypasses are not there, we can try to bypass like this way, like / @ again the domain name we can pass and all. So these kinds of bypasses also we can utilize to perform like a URL redirection and this arbitrary load of URL into that particular applications. Okay. If in case instead of loading a URL into this application, if it is redirecting into the Chrome browser and it is opening there, then that going to be called as open redirect. And this is going to be called as load of arbitrary URL into the particular application. So we'll move to another attack, that is stealing sensitive data from local storage. So first of all, I will show you that ADB shell. This is not a rooted device, so you can see that like inside data/data/com.insecure shop and shared preferences, under preference.xml file, this application is storing usernames and passwords. So I will zoom it for the reference. So you can see here, this application is storing this kinds of usernames and password in this, and username also in this XML file, which is included in this local. So there is a condition that if the activity having the permission set allow universal access from file URLs equals to true, then we can access the files also. Then we can access the files also from local storage to the application. So what are that? So like how we can exploit that, we'll see that. So what we have to define here, this is the internal path where the file is getting located, and instead of any URL, correct? So instead of loading here facebook.com or google.com, we can load this preference.xml file, which is containing the sensitive information which is stored by this application. Okay. So we'll check that. So there's nothing running background in the application. We'll check that whether we are able to call it or not. So you can see we are able to call that locally stored file in the web view, right? So this way we can steal the locally stored files also from the browser if the application is having this kinds of permission defined. So how we can find out the permission is defined or not? You can search in the activity that set allow. You can see here on the line number, it's not having above the line number 29, that settings for they are allowing set allow universal access from file equals to true. That means that we can access the files. Okay. We'll move to the next slide. Okay. So there is another one, another also we can exploit by using this. So exploiting deep link to execute accesses. So we can perform access attacks as well by using this deep link. Okay. So for that we'll see one more application, as this was with the help of custom URI. We will see one more application which is having domain name defined within it. So how we can handle with the domain name as well. And to execute accesses in Android application, set JavaScript enable permission should be defined and it should be true. So once it is true, so with the help of that, it tells the web view to enable JavaScript execution, and by default it's false if it is not mentioned in the activity. So for that I will just load the another application. So the first task will be, obviously we are going to check whether the activity is exported or not. So first of all, we'll look for the exported activity. So whether exported equals to true is defined or not. So it is defined, but it is defined within some third party like Google Firebase and all. Okay. So we'll again go manually. So where intent filter is defined. So we'll search for intent -filter. So whenever we are having intent filter, so we'll check that whether this is having an intent filter, and line from line number 42 to line number 40, again 43, we are having intent filters defined here, right? And it is not having explicitly set to false. You can see here on the line number 42. So that means that this application is also having Android schema, which is defined as HTTP and HTTPS, and Android host name they have defined as medium.com, right? So what will be our, again, the URIs here? So it will be like deep link, how we can create it. So it will be either HTTP or HTTPS, then medium.com. Okay. That is the first, we figured out the schema and we figured out the host name, right? So now we have to figure out the later thing. So for that we'll move to this particular activity, that is com.worldroid. Whatever it is, blogs viewer. Okay. So once we open this activity, you can see again what is our task. We will search for the get intent. So you can see that this application is using the get intent, but in this block, first block, they are using the vulnerable load URL. That is this is a hard-coded URL, right? So we can't do anything with this block. because they are the URL is hard coded, right? So they are directly loading it. So we can't do that. So but if you come to the next block, that is this dot get token equals to get intent, get data, then again they are querying something, get query parameter, as we saw in the previous application. So you can see images contact. So if you go to the images contract, there they have defined URL equals to URL, right? And you can see here images like that is going to be appended with this URL parameter, right? So what we required here in this application, they are not taking any path. So directly they are calling the parameter. So how we are going to append it? Like question mark URL, right? So now what will be our task? Our task will be to again check whether it's vulnerable to loading an URL, or whether we can perform like accesses also, right? So we'll move forward to the accesses. Okay. So there is there is a way that we can exploit. I will include this way also within this activity only, within this expert only. So we'll save the time. So you can see, instead of calling any domain name through ADB. So ADB, what is the limitation here? Like for executing ADB commands on any attacker, any victim's device, we need its physical device, and we required its debugging should be enabled, right? So there are two conditions, but we can perform this attack remotely also. So how we can perform that attack remotely? We can create a HTML page, as we saw in the very first slide, where I was triggering, navigating to my Facebook profile, right? So the same way we can create a HTML page which is having these kinds of deep links in created. So just so you can see that here, that what's happening. So whatever the URLs were defined here, like this is the no host validation we perform with web, then again with web view. If it is there, we will not work and all this, right? So we'll check for the accesses also with the help of this type. Okay. So for that, what we have to do, we just have to host this script. So we can locally host this script. So I have already hosted this script by using this command python -, with Python server. So we'll just move to the mobile. So if you can see, there is nothing running in the application. I'm just launching my Chrome browser, and this is what the deep links that I have created, this HTML page that I just shown you. So if I'm clicking on this check access button, you can see that something is getting called medium icon came, right? Okay. Okay, something messed. I will just try to call one. Maybe some escaping is not done. Okay, I'm just refreshing the page again. Okay, now it's working. So if I'm clicking on check access button, okay. So we'll try with HTTP. Just check in again the code if I'm missing anything. Okay. So what's happening actually in my device, Medium is already, I just figured it out. In my device, Medium is already installed. So that's why it's calling to Medium directly. I will just uninstall it. Okay, so now the World Droid is installed. So now if I'm checking for the accesses, I'll just log in into the application. Okay. Okay. Again, the one thing is like I'm doing this on Android 12. So on Android 12, like if it is HTTPS, it will directly load into the browser. Okay. So for that, one more thing I will show you. Like I'm connecting my another device. So okay. So as I told you, for like whenever the schema is defined with HTTPS and all, so sometimes it will not work in on this Android 12 versions. So that is where they have fixed it. So in Android 11, we can see for HTTPS only. For what custom schema, we can still exploit it. So this is Android 11, that device I have connected right now. And if you can see here, that is a check accesses is there, and nothing is running apart from this Chrome browser. Okay. If I'm clicking on this check accesses, you can see two options are coming because this URL can be handled by two options. The first one will be a Chrome browser. The another one will be a Worldroid where they have defined their custom schema. Sorry, this is this schema, not a. So if I'm clicking on just once, now you can see the access is getting triggered here, right? So how it's happening? Like this is how like they haven't like they have set this JavaScript enable equals to true. That means that we can execute any XSS command to like sorry we can execute any JavaScript command so that we can get an XSS here. So this is a way that we can perform an XSS attack as well by using this deep link. And this is a way that we can use this like we can exploit like deep link by using an HTML web page. So how like we can just host it and we can send a link to any victim. So if he is going to just click on that link, everything is working fine, right? So we don't need a physical device, we don't need a debugging enabled. So this is a way that we can remotely also exploit this vulnerability. So that's why the severity of these findings are like medium level findings. So this was a to execute XSS attack. Another way is like we can perform this attack, same attack, by creating our rogue application or like our own attacker control application as well. For that, you can utilize this particular code where we can define an intent and we can define the class names where like whatever the class names we have found, like the package name will be the package name will be defined first. That is like com.insecure.com. That this package name we can find out by using Frida or by navigating to application, or in JADX also we can see on the top like com.insecure. That package name will be there, and whatever the vulnerable activity was that there, so that we have to give in the class name. And with the help of set data URI pass, what we can do, we can pass the content of that thing. So whatever insecureshop.com was there, and it was passed with this URL. So let's say I'm just passing this preference.xml. So what will happen? This entire data will be called on this attacker control domain. Okay. So for that, I just have prepared the POC. So you can see I'm running the application from this Android Studio, and you can see on the right hand side there is nothing application installed. But once I run, the application got installed, and you can see within web view the preference.xml file get data is getting loaded, and this is a attacker control application, not a victim's application, not an insecure shop application. This is attacker control application. Okay, so this is the way that we can exploit this by using Android applications as well. Okay. So the another vulnerability is like this vulnerability is very recent, like just before 2.5 months or 2 months back. It was found in Instagram by I just forgot the name, Kankrale something, Rahul Kankrale. So you can just like use this blog also, use his blogs also to read out. And he only found that vulnerability in Instagram's this particular Android app version that was 250 point this one. So I just tried to reproduce it for the demonstration purpose. Like we can perform a CSRF attack as well by using these things. Okay. So what is the thing in Instagram? Like there is a feature in Instagram that to turn on the message requests. So we are having option to enable the message request, and from anybody, and we can disable it also. So Instagram have included one deep link to turn off the message request, right? So, and they are having this custom schema defined as Instagram : /. So if you want, I can show you that also. We'll load that. So this is a particular version's APK that I downloaded from APK Mirror. So if you want to try, you can still try it like in old versions. So we'll move to another one until just wait for a second, it will load. Okay, so it got loaded. So the first task again will be our like go to manifest file and search for the schema, right? So here they have defined the schema. You can see from the Instagram, this is the schema they have defined, and they are having different host also. But apart from this host also, they have included one direct this deep link that turn off message request. If you call it, it will directly. If you search it directly in the source code, you will find it out somewhere. And there is one more way to find out a deep link that I just forgot to explain. So sometimes what happens, some applications are directly hard coding their schemas. So in that case, what we can do, whatever the schema is defined, like let's say for here Instagram, right? So schema will be like this : /. Okay, so just search for this kinds of thing in entire application, and somewhere also you can. There is a possibility that you will find the ready-made deep link created for you, and you just have to append a parameter. That's it. So sometimes you don't need to do the code analysis as well. So that's the easy and like fastest way sometimes, but not all applications are doing that. I'll just check for this permission. We'll take a time to scan, but till the time we will see the attack here. Yeah, so it will take a little bit. Okay, we got it. So it was defined somewhere. All the schemas were defined here. So somewhere like the schema was there. Like this was from my understanding. So I found it here. So that's the way they implemented like Instagram : / and turn off message request. So that is going to call it. So we'll see that the POC. Like yesterday only I created. So you can see the POC here. Let's say this is my Instagram. I'm going to settings. If I'm searching for messages, okay, you can see that right now your followers on Instagram, it is set to request. Others on Instagram, it's set to request. It means that everyone can message me on Instagram. Okay. So with the help of this deep link, we are going to perform a CSRF attack, and we will just disable these things. Okay. So how we can do that? The same with the help of HTML script, we can do that. So you can see. And one more thing, this attack I had performed on Android 12 versions. Okay, so on Android 12, it is still working with custom URIs. So you can see here, like increase Insta follower. I just created a link, and you can see that what is included inside that link, Instagram : and this is what the deep link that we have included in it. So if you are clicking on that link, what will happen? It will open the Instagram, and it is directly disabling the things. So we successfully performed the attack, right? So this is how the Rahul has like reported. The sir has reported this finding to Instagram, and it got passed in the latest version of Instagram. But this is a way that we can perform CSRF attacks in like when we are doing penetration testings and all. So this was a very new attack, so that's why I thought to include a script. There is another attack for performing CSRF, that is with the help of this Periscope. Nowadays, Periscope is no more there, so we are only using the Twitter. So I was not able to reproduce it, so I just have downloaded the POC from this HackerOne report. So you can also visit this link and you can check it out, the entire report there. So what was defined again here? So in the manifest file, the host was defined as user, and the path prefix was defined. Nothing was defined. It was only /. And after the schema was defined as PSCP or PSCPD. That means that we can call the that link with the help of PSCP and PSPPD. So : /. What is the host name? That is user. This is the user. And how this researcher performed the attack, like like when he was performing on the web application level. So this PSPP.tv /user ID and /follow. If we are like this kinds of request was going to follow somebody, right? So what he tried to do, like in deep link, what he did the same way. Like instead of calling the www, he used the custom schema to call the Periscope application and appended with the host name and again appended with the user ID of that particular victim's user ID to whom you want to get follow. And after that, follow and follow. This was the like keywords they had defined, right? So again, we can create a HTML page like this way for CSR domain, and we can perform the attack. So I just have added the POC from that side only. So you can just have a look on it. So once you look all, you can see here, there is a follow button, right? So that's the thing. So he already captured the user ID of that particular user ID. Once you go to this Chrome browser, you just created the same HTML page or link you can create in the like by using this technique. And if you click on the CSRF domain, you can see the person who is already logged into the application, he is like started following that like another person without knowing him, right? So this is a way that we can perform CSRF attacks on the mobiles application as well. Another one is the exploiting deep link to steal the user token. So by stealing the token, we can change that user's password and we can take over that account as well, right? So for that, what we have to do, whenever you found a particular deep link and you created a deep link, so instead of passing the URL, what we can pass our web collaborator URL and all. So if that application is sending some kinds of authentication token or session ID in the headers, so that is going to be transferred on our collaborator, right? So this is the second one I have defined. So this one I got in one of like Bhagwanti program, but I don't have permission to disclose it. So that's why I just tried to like scramble some words. So these are not the actual words that I use there. So these are some different words. So like target app scheme, / purchase action. So it was like that kind of, and again this with the help of URI, I was just passing the Burp collaborator link. And this is a reference also, you can find it out on, this is a public report reference. And whenever you are hosting the script, so this will be kind of thing like this Burp collaborator going to be triggered in that application, because obviously this is not a any web application link, so that's why it's not going to be loaded, right? And in the Burp collaborator, you will see the URL like this way. Sorry, the hit like this way, and sometimes cookies and sessions are also going to be passed on the line number 4 and all. You can see that. So I already has blurred it. So what if the cookies are getting transferred? So that was transferred in. So we come to the mitigation part. So Vaishali, can you tell me the mitigations now?
Hello. Yeah, so for mitigating to prevent from deepening exploitation, first thing for example, for accessor, you should disable the flag called JavaScript enable. So this flag should be set to be false so that you cannot call the JavaScript code. And for example, for LFI, there is some flags like set allow file access, which should be also set to be false so that you cannot call the local file storage. And like for you should also set some file validation like domain validation so that you cannot call the another domains. It should only allow to the domain or your application. Any other domain you are not allowed to be called. So these are the few mitigation which you have to use from preventing from the deep links attacks.
Or for better strong mitigations, you can implement regex also. So that will properly check whether the domains is getting passed or not. Okay. So this is how we come to the end of the like presentations. So if anyone have any questions, they can ask us.
Firstly, I would like to thanks again. Yeah, it was a great presentation, and I believe that everyone who joined or who watched your presentation will get a lot of useful knowledge related with Android dealing exploitation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So are there anyone who want to ask any question related with this topic?
Yeah, hi. I had a question.
Mhm.
So how are these deep links different from Firebase dynamic links? Are they related, or is it like completely separate?
Like, are you talking about app links?
So there is an option on Firebase where you can generate dynamic links, which is and that too also opens inside the app.
Mm-hmm.
So are they like similar concepts, or so in dynamic links, what is possible is you can redirect to a shorter domain or something like that.
Okay, okay. So, like, I haven't checked for Firebase links. I will check in. I will check and let you know about that dynamic link. Like Firebase, I haven't done.
Okay, okay. So basically, those are also the links which open inside the app. So let's say if you have, let's say you gave an example of Medium, right? So if I create a dynamic link for Medium, then it will directly open that page inside your application.
Okay, okay.
And they behave differently whether if you're opening on a website or like a laptop or a mobile, that way. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, like, is it like that way? Like, if you are calling it from a mobile application, so it will only get loaded into that application.
Yes.
But if the application is not installed, then what will happen?
It opens Play Store.
It will redirect to Play Store, right?
Correct.
Okay, okay. So, like, still, like, we can check in the source code, like, if after that you like like URL, if there is some kind of like this URL or some custom URL is getting passed or getting appended. So in that case, we can try, but I'm not pretty sure about it. But I will surely do the research on this and I will let you know.
Okay, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. This was a new concept for me also. Like Firebase dynamic links, I haven't tried.
Okay, we don't have a new question at the moment. If we receive our other question, and we will reach to you guys in as about the question, and we will reply back to the audience. Yes. For me, actually, I have a question, but it is not a typical question. I'm just want to ask or only to say something like, do you have any suggestion or motivation for everyone who is willing to start as information security career? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Can you please say again?
Yes. Do you have any suggestion or motivation for everyone who is willing to start as information security career?
Okay, okay. For information security, right? So, like, basically, I will tell them like you can start with web, because web is the like most like simple way to start and understand. Like we can, because we are daily using it, right? So we can understand it. So you can start solving, like Portsfigure is having a very good collection of the labs and all. Like, and Portsfigure, they have implemented, like they have created some real-time environment scenarios as well. So that will from there they can start learning about everything, like what is cookie, what is session, like what is authorization, what is authentications, and there they can solve the labs and perform attacks as well. So they can utilize it, their thinking skill as well, because hacking is all about how bad you can think, right? Some of, like, this is from Vaishali's dialogue. Like that's very nice, that how we can badly think about it, right? So good people are not in hacking skills. So like we have to think about the bad, so to prevent it from bad attacks. So that's why you can try to solve those things.
Thank for your suggestion. Or any comment from V?
Yeah, sure. So I think for if you are very new to the bug bounty, same as Akash said, first you have to pick any vulnerability and think about what is it, how you can remediate, how it's actually working. So first little bit study theoretically, then move to the ports reader lab. They have all very practical labs they have. So you should follow that ports reader labs, and then you can move do for an internship. So from a startup, so there you get a lots of chance to explore real applications. So you should join in a startup for internship, and in this way you can learn many things. And nowadays, like applications come very secure. So like you have to think, like you have to understand the functionality of the application, how it's working, and then you have to figure out the loopholes, like you have to find out the business logical flow, because nowadays applications counts very securely. Like you can read many plots which I've written on the business logical flow, from where you can get an idea, and there are many other researchers who also written the plots. So this is a good way to start your cybersecurity journey as a penetration tester.
Thank for your suggestion and information. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I would like to say thanks again for your helpful contribution at our event. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for
Yeah.
inviting us.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
so
bye. Feel free
Thank
to
you.
ping us
Thank you. Bye
if you have
bye.
any doubts. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ Cyber Con 9 ကြိမ်မြောက် Virtual Conference ကိုလာပြီးတော့ join ပြီးတဲ့ audience အားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်။ပြီးတော့နောက်လာမယ့် topic တွေနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဘယ်လို speaker တွေကဘယ်လိုမျိုး topic တွေကိုနောက်လောက်တွေမှာ sharing လုပ်တော့မယ်ဆိုတာကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်ဒီ Cyber Con ရဲ့ social platform တွေဖြစ်တဲ့LinkedIn တို့ Facebook တို့မှာinformation sharing လုပ်ပြီးတော့မယ်ပေါ့နော်။ဟုတ်အားလုံးကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်။
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျေးဇူးပါ